Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Josh Bertrand Fishing. Today we are talking about the top 5 spring bass fishing lakes in Arizona. So I've done a top 5 bass fishing lakes in Arizona, just in general overall, right? But we're gonna go detailed into, we're gonna do one for every season. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Because it does change, right? Like certain lakes fish better at certain times of year. We're gonna go into the spring right now as we roll into the spring season. It's everyone's favorite time of year to get out there and fish, and rightfully so. It's probably the easiest time of year to catch bass. They're up in the shallows, they're spawning, they're eating, and they're very catchable. So it's our favorite time to be out here. So before we get into it, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. And also, I guide on basically all these lakes other than Havasu. So little teaser there, Havasu's on the list. But if you are looking to go fishing on any of these lakes, drop me a line, send me an email at azangler@gmail.com. I'll leave that in the description below. You can check out my website, joshbertrandfishing.com. Contact me through there and we'll get you set up. So let's get into this list here. We're gonna start at the bottom and work our way to the top. And we're gonna start with Lake Pleasant at number 5. You know, Pleasant is a very hit or miss lake overall. You know, some people love it, some people, it's not their favorite. What I find is a lot of the guys that live on the west and the north side of town go to Pleasant a lot just because it's easily accessible. I'm an east sider, but I still like to make the trip over there, especially in the springtime. And spring is, the reason I've got on the list here is it's the easiest time to go out to Pleasant and catch fish. When those fish get on bait or when they go deep, they can be tricky to get in touch with, especially if you're not out there all the time. In the springtime, you know that they're in the shallow pockets, they're in the shallow coves, and the cool thing about Pleasant, it's got crystal clear water. So if you like to sight fish, whether they're on beds or just cruising, Pleasant's a really cool lake because parts of the lake you can see down 20 feet. It's very, very clear. It's the clearest body of water consistently that we have in the Phoenix area, and that makes it really fun in the springtime. You know, as far as tips for you when you go out to Lake Pleasant to catch fish, do just what I talked about. You can be on the main lake, in the coves on the main lake, or you can go into the northern coves of the lake. Typically, the river is going to be closed this time of year. Generally, it's closed from June through, it's closed from December to June. If the Eagles get their deal done early, sometimes they'll open it early. I've seen it open a few years over the 20 years that I've been fishing it. But typically the river's closed, but all your northern coves, Humbug, Coles, Goose Bay, Bass Bay, Castle Creek, they're good. And then the main lake coves are good as well. And this is the one time of year where you can actually consistently catch fish all around that main lake. So the main lake coves like Cottonwood, Pipeline, down by the 10 lane. You go across the lake and fish in the marina. Honeymoon Cove, the coves moving north from there. There's Paul's Hideaway, all kinds of good places to catch fish on Pleasant this time of year. So, when they're up shallow spawning, a soft plastic's really tough to beat, whether that's a soft stick bait like a Berkeley General, a drop shot, and then reaction baits, little swim baits. As you get later into the spring, the topwater starts to play a little bit more, but it is really tough to beat the slow moving stuff, especially if you're just trying to get bit and catch fish. And the cool thing about Pleasant, it doesn't have a lot of the 8 to 10 pound fish that maybe like Saguaro and Canyon have. But what it does have is a lot of 2 to 4 pound fish, just good, solid, quality fish. Your average size bass in Pleasant, believe it or not, I think is one of the, it's above average statewide. And I don't know if a lot of people would guess that, but I feel that way. There's a lot of 3 pound fish in there. And if you're catching a 2.5 pound bass on average, that's a good average size fish. Moving forward to number 4, we're gonna go over to the east side, and it's going to be Saguaro Lake. So Saguaro Lake, it's got the potential to be number 1 on any of these lists when it's on, but it can be a little fickle at times due to different factors. So I've got it ranked at number 4 in this list. Now, we're talking 4 out of a lot of lakes in the valley, so it's not like these are the only 5 lakes in the valley. If any of the lakes that made this list are dang good lakes, and Saguaro is one of them. It's got the biggest fish in the valley. It's got a great fish population. The only reason it's not like number one is it can be up and down. Some years you can have algae blooms. Some years the fish can, you know, they're Florida strain fish, so depending on the weather, they can be a little slower to get going. I've seen it where late February, early March, the fish are up and it's on fire. And I've also seen it where it takes until like April for them to really get going. So Saguaro is a fantastic lake. It does get some fishing pressure. I do a ton of guiding out there myself. The biggest, you know, carrot that you got dangling in front of you when you go there is any cast could be a 10-pounder. It is the land of the giants. It's full of toads, and there's been multiple 13-pounders caught out of there last spring. The biggest bass I've ever caught on Saguaro, 12 pounds. I've caught 2 of them. So, you know, maybe I'll break that this year. Maybe someone that I'm guiding is going to break that this year. But they're in there for sure. Similar to Pleasant, slow is the way to go. You know, you can definitely catch some big ones on crankbaits and vibrating jigs and stuff like that. But if you're just looking to get bit, stick to slow-moving stuff, drop shot, Carolina rig, wacky rig. And then when the conditions are right, that's when you want to throw the reaction stuff. You get a windy day, the fish are keying on shad. Sometimes you can use speed to trick those fish when they get really stubborn as well, but a lot of times that's going to be when the water's warmer, at least for me anyways. But Saguaro, phenomenal spring lake, that's number 4. Number 3, we're going to move over to the west side of the state, Lake Havasu. It's on the Arizona-California border. It's an awesome lake. It's one of my personal favorites, and the whole Colorado River is really good this time of year. All the way from Meade down to Yuma. I mean, the entire thing is awesome. The different lakes that you've got, Meade, Mojave, Havasu, Martinez, and then stretches of river in between, they're all great. I'm giving Havasu the nod for number 3. The main reason, and I've talked about it in my top 5 Arizona lakes video in general, the main reason for that is this place is full of both largemouth and smallmouth. So I think it's really cool to be able to fish for a mix, right? You've got, you can go up in the shallow reeds, up into the rivers and be catching largemouth on your flipping stick, on a frog, and you can go out to the gravel points and the rocky areas on the main lake and further down south where it's really clear and be catching big smallmouth, 3, 4, 4.5 pound smallmouth. And they're my favorite fish in the world to catch. So Havasu's awesome. If you've got a really clear year, you're going to be able to see a lot of those fish. If you have a year where there's more of an algae bloom, you're going to be just more fishing for them. But you know, stuff like a Ned rig, a small jig is a great way to fish if you're going to fish slow. And then again, if you're fishing fast, swim baits, swim jigs, vibrating jigs, frogs, up around the shallow cover is a great way to go too. If you're a swim baiter, you can catch fish on swim baits out there. You know, 5-6 inch swim baits, that's a really good size. Something like a Berkeley call shad in the lime ice color, that's kind of a go-to of mine. You know, reeling it over the man-made habitats that they put in there to the points. If you can find some grass, that's a great way to fish it. But Havasu is a really cool lake. That's number 3. You may or may not want to try to time your trip around spring break. You know, if you're not looking for the circus, try to avoid that week. You know, it's an awesome lake throughout the spring. It's really cool. March through May, I love going out there. Number 2, lake that didn't make the list last time, but it's super spring lake. Lake Alamo. This is a lake that is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's off I-10. You take Salome Road, you go north, and I mean, it's not near anything, but it's a trip. A lot of people will go out there and spend a few days. Got some good campgrounds out there, and I got a lot of buddies who will go out there and spend multiple weekends camping throughout the spring on this lake. It's full of brush. Like, it's full of brush, especially when the water's high. It's a power fisherman's dream. You can power fish with spinnerbait, swim jig, vibrating jig, frog, flip, and just catch fish and fit after fish after fish, and some big ones too. You know, it's got the 5, 6, 7, 8 pounders, but it's really a great numbers lake. If you're looking to go catch a bunch of numbers on the heavy line, on the heavy tackle, Alamo is one of the places to be in the springtime. Highly recommend going out there. You know, if you're looking for bigger fish, up towards the river's good, but the entire lake's got fish in it. You know, you could catch a big one anywhere out there. The water clarity is going to depend on the type of runoff that you're getting and stuff like that. I've seen it really clear down on the main lake, and I've seen the whole thing muddy before. So this year, where it's 2025, not a whole lot of runoff. The lakes aren't super high. They're not super muddy. It's going to make for some stable fishing this spring. So Alamo is a good one. I don't get out there quite as much as I used to, just living on the east side, but it's worth the trip. It really is worth the trip, especially in the spring. I don't know if I would recommend it summer, fall, winter near as much, but springtime, it's the time to go. Now let's go to Roosevelt, because our camera battery's dying, and I didn't expect that. So our #1 lake is Roosevelt Lake. What a phenomenal lake. This thing has had high water for the past 6 or 7 years, and it is in its prime right now. I love going out there. It's the biggest lake on the Salt River chain. It's got so many fish. It's got big fish. It's got so many different ways to fish, and the spring is the ultimate time to be out there. You can literally fish any way you want. You can go up into the heavy cover and flip and throw spinner baits, or you can be out on the main lake with a spinning rod, throwing a drop shot, throwing a wacky rig, throwing a jerk bait. It's got smallmouth and largemouth, more largemouth than smallmouth, but it does have both, and it's just got the variety. It's big. You can fish in a crowd. You can fish away from a crowd. The lake can swallow up boats. So #1 is going to be Roosevelt, and things go in cycles, right? Like 10 years ago, Roosevelt may not have been #1, but really, honestly, for me right now, on a lot of these lists, Roosevelt's going to be at the top for all the reasons I mentioned previously. So again, thank you guys for watching the video. If you're looking to go fishing, drop me an email. Check out my website, joshbertrandfishing.com. And yeah, more videos to come. Appreciate y'all.